For more on the cannabis play, let's bring in Sean Stiefel, CEO of Navy Capital. There was so much optimism, after President Biden won and Democrats were going to control both houses for this group and for legislation. And it's been such a disappointment on the regulatory front, I would argue, Sean, and on the stock front. Why is that?
You had a ton of investor optimism, frankly, when you had Democrats sweep the Senate. And what ended up happening was you had no real tangible progress at the federal level. So a lot of investors have been looking at this space and saying, well, how do we find a way to get excited about it? And you had that run post Biden's win and then obviously post the Senate flip, but you didn't see any follow through because of the lack of progress in Washington, which frankly created more questions than answers this year.
So what do you do with all of that next year? Can it improve?
So you have a really interesting dichotomy between the actual fundamentals of these businesses and what's happening in Washington. So if you look under the hood, these businesses are more profitable than ever. You've got companies with great management teams. You've got companies that have been public for 3 to 4 years. So you know what management teams are beat and raise type management teams. And you've got New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut in your back pocket next year with a big chunk of the Eastern Seaboard. So the fundamental picture remains not only incredibly robust from a growth perspective, but you're seeing a maturation of the winners, and we think the winners keep pulling away, all the while valuations are the lowest they've ever been on a multiple basis.
So which stocks do you put in that bracket of being a winner with great management?
Our largest position is Trulieve. Trulieve has a 50% market share in the state of Florida, roughly. They're number 1, number 2, or number 3 player in most of their markets. Phenomenal CEO, an absolute killer. She knows the customer better than anybody else. We think that she's going to continue to distance herself from the pack. Likewise, you got a company like Green Thumb Industries where they're playing in all the right spaces from the brand side, from the market side. And we're very excited about their growth prospects as well. And again, you have GTI trading at 11 times EBITDA on next year's numbers and Trulieve trading at roughly 8. So we think that there's multiples of upside from here.
What about the market share leaders in Canada, Canopy Growth and Tilray?
Yeah, I would start by a high level. The Canadian entire market is roughly the same size as California. And you've got almost multiples of the U.S. market cap in Canadian companies for effectively just Canada. The European thesis, the South American thesis hasn't really played out. And so what we're seeing there is you had companies raise billions and billions of dollars in the kind of euphoric phase of Canada. And so the Canadian market became incredibly oversupplied, all for a very, very limited customer base of a country the size of the state of California. You also have an enormous amount of government involvement, whether it's the governments who were running the liquor stores, the LCBO in Canada that ultimately in the Ontario province that actually served as the distribution point for consumers. Generally, government-run businesses don't do so well, especially when you're talking about a brand new product.
We have Erwin Simon on this show a lot, CEO of Tilray. We combined the companies, Aphria and Tilray, this year, and there was a lot of hope for that. And when we say, look, Canada's been weak, the U.S. has been stagnant with regulation. He said the whole world, though, out there, when it comes to opening up for cannabis, Europe, he points to Israel a lot. Are we seeing the kind of movement that we need to see for some of those stocks to work?
I think we're years away. You're getting some exciting developments in Germany, but outside of that, the European market is very, very small. South African market's very, very small. Israel's a lot of fits and starts as it relates to adult use and is actually very oversupplied. The real gem is the United States. The U.S. is going to be a $100 billion market, which is roughly a 4x from where it is today in the next 10 years. And again, next year, you're going to have New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and potentially Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Virginia all start moving pretty fast here. So we're very excited about the growth markets. Each one of those states could be a $1 billion+ market easily.
Sean Stiefel, thanks for giving us the lay of the land.